everyone, this is Chinmay here from Exploring Sports. Our page talks about lesser known sports in India, creating awareness about these sports, and also we talk about different athletes' journey in these sports. This live session is in collaboration with Global Institute of Sports Business. Me being a part of Global Institute of Sports Business just last year, there are a lot of questions which a transistor has while entering into the industry. Um, so, uh, so with us live, we have Reuben Borah, who is head of marketing and relations at GISB. And thank you so much, Reuben, for joining live with us.
Absolutely, my pleasure. Thank you so much, Chinmay. You've been doing some great work with exploring sports, and even your background with pickleball and with non-commercial, less followed sports in India. We've uh, we've really seen you grow from strength to strength, and it's really proud for us to see where you're growing and headed in your career. So it's a good moment, and excited to be here. Thank you so much for having me.
Thank you so much. It really means a lot to me. So, if you could explain what is GISB, and it would be great for our followers.
Yeah, so I'll give you a quick background, right? So GISB, which is the Global Institute of Sports Business, is the sports management education vertical of India on Track. So India on Track essentially is a Delhi-based 360-degree sports management agency. We work with a lot of international and national companies in grassroots development, in sponsorship activation, consulting, even digital media and event activations. And through that journey, it's been close to about 8 years now that IoT has been in business. And through that journey, we realized that there was a clear gap in the sports management professionals landscape that were getting into the industry. Right? As sports gets more professional, the need for quality professionals also increases. It's not like it was 5, 7, 10 years ago, where anyone from any stream could just sort of join sports industry and then learn on the job. Now it's become very important because sports has become a really commercial vertical of the industry. If you look at the kind of revenues that IPL generates, or globally, if you look at the kind of revenues that sports league generated, it is very big. India is still fairly new, but we are still growing as a sporting nation right now. So we saw that gap, and that's where the idea for GISB came about. And the vision clearly for the Global Institute of Sports Business is to be Asia's #1 sports management program. And for that, we believe in working with the best and being with the best, right? So typically, the flagship program is a postgraduate program in sports management. It's a 15-month course, typically broken down into two key parts. One is a 12-month study period, and then there is a 3-month internship period. Now, within that 12-month, there are tons of engagements through. You have your curriculum that's already been structured. You have live guest lectures. You have session industry exposures. You have short-term internship opportunities, etc. And then the main part is the 3-month study, the internship period, which is aligned to your strength. So what we believe in is that someone, if they would want to study sports at this level, they would want to do a job that makes them happy, right? We believe in the saying that if you do what you love, you don't work a single day of your life, right? So also for understanding that is equally important. So what we believe in is working individually with a lot of our students, and then figuring out how we can empower them and work with them, and then secure internship opportunities, which in essence is your foot in the door into a job. So typically we look at it's either a 3-month or a 6-month internship, which could also be some look at it as a probation period. But a lot of employers like to sort of test out young talent, understand them better. That's how we sort of channelize it. We have an international education partner, which is the University of Massachusetts Amherst. They teach 3 modules. They have PhD professors sort of teach you. We also have one of the most watched leagues in the world, which is the Premier League, affiliated with the program. So as part of the program, we take students to London for a study trip, which is hosted by the Premier League. Obviously once Corona is, the pandemic is down and we can travel again, we can start traveling again. And That's the main lookout for GISB, is to ensure that students are employable, and we provide a good platform for young students and professionals to get into the sports industry.
Yeah. That's a very in detail and depth answer, I feel, and I am sure that there are a lot of areas which you GISB covers. So, what would be the criteria for a person to enroll the in your institute? Like many other institutes have interviews, exams, and if is there any specific degree required to pursue masters at your institute?
See, I'll give you a context first. So, sports management is the management of sport, right? So,
Yeah.
in the end of the day, it is essentially a management course where you will go through the functioning, the financing, the law aspect, organization aspect, and just the fundamentals of how the business of sport should work. So when you look at the kind of backgrounds required, actually, we welcome all interested students and professionals to join from any background. You know, whether you've studied engineering, or you're a lawyer or a CA, or even if you've if you played sport, we encourage people from all fields to sort of join sports management, because in the end of the day, the industry needs professionals. And if you can bring in a little bit of your previous experience, so for example, if you've done a little bit of IT work in your past, right, there is a lot of growth in sports technology right now that's happening, whether it's fantasy sports, whether it's wearable technology, whether it's data in sport. You can sort of layer your resume, layer your experience with the sports management piece, and then sort of jump into the industry and bring in that expertise. So sport in that way is welcoming to all. For GISB particularly, our program is extremely industry designed and industry curated. So we do not sort of believe in any common entrance test, because we don't feel that there'll be the right kind of questions to pose for potential students, which would necessarily challenge them for sports management. So what we do is we treat it like a job. So we do 2 rounds of interviews internally. You know, either it's with me or with the program director, where we sort of evaluate. We work very closely with our education partners for this. They provide us with selection parameters, etc, and then we sort of then provide opportunities to students to join the program. To give you a sense, we look at a fairly small batch size of 30 to 35 students, and with the pandemic, we've reduced it even more. We're looking at a maximum 20 to 25 students now. That the first starting few months are going to be online. So so we interview close to 400 students every season, and then only the top 30 odd get offer letters. So once you have an offer letter, it means that you are, we welcome you. We'd like to welcome you, and we believe that we can empower you and your profile to get into the sports industry. So that's just a little bit about how the process is.
I really like the idea of you empowering them to the industry. That's a whole new different way of looking at it.
Yeah,
As the name suggests, Global Institute of Sports Business. So,
yeah.
what are the different learnings, knowledge which students gain at GISB as compared to any other institute, uh, which will make difference in their life?
Yeah, so it's an interesting question, right? So with GISB, I shared a little bit about the background with India on Track, right? So like a lot of like a lot of institutes that are out there, essentially, which are coming with a very heavy academic background, ours is more from the industry side. If you look at the way the sports industry is created right now, it's fairly new. It's still a new industry. I think sports has become professional since the IPL launched in 2008. Until then, it was fairly India national team following only. So ours is a very heavy industry designed and industry curated program, in the sense that all of us are actually sports professionals who have come together and created this program, this course. Secondly, all of the courses, the modules are actually taught by professionals from the industry. So that actually provides the students a unique opportunity to learn firsthand from professionals who are working in the particular area of sport. Secondly, they get an opportunity to network, which is so important again in sports. And thirdly, you are getting an opportunity to rub shoulders with a potential employer. So the way we've designed it is that someone comes in and spends time with you at the program, spends time with you teaching you, and then during that module or during that course, you get an opportunity to know that person better. Something again very different that we look at is the heavy industry connect, right? Through the program, we encourage our students to take up internships, short-term exposure opportunities, short-term internship opportunities. There are a lot of life projects that we work with the industry with, which is very different, where you are as students actually solving a real life business challenge or a real life business proposition for top global companies in the world. So these are experiences which really enhance the student learning experience. And I spoke about small batches, right? So we work in small batches as well, so that gives us time to individually work and mentor each and every student that is a part of this program. And of course, there's the study trip to London, which is a money can't buy experience, where you get to visit the Premier League headquarters, watch a few games, visit a few clubs, visit the Premier League broadcast studio, which is for a league that is the most watched in the world. The kind of content that studio churns out, it's impressive to say the least. So that study trip, even if it's a short period of 7 days, it provides a lot of context to Indian professionals, so that you actually learn firsthand from them. And then when you come back to India, you enter the industry with an idea, saying that this is how this should work, or this is how the Premier League does it, or this is how broadcast should work, or match day operations, etc. So if you look at it, I mean, to sum it all up, it's very industry connected in that sense. Yeah.
So in India, cricket is a religion sort of thing. But as we go along, different leagues are emerging for different other sports. As compared to cricket, they are not much watched. What would you suggest for sports enthusiasts who wants to work in different sports other than cricket?
Yeah, I think I think now is the best time to get into the sports industry, right? The rise of the Indian sports league since IPL in 2008 is really inspiring and really positive to see. Of course, we'll talk about the more known ones, which is the ISL and Pro Kabaddi and UTT and Premier Badminton League as well. If you look at how these leagues have been structured, they've been sport has become more privatized in that sense. So you have a league, and then you have franchises. Within these franchises, you have players who are running through contracts, and within these organizations slash franchises, you have a lot of support staff and team that are working. So that is your business of leagues actually, which is driving a lot of the sports content that you are watching today. So within that sphere, there's a lot of opportunities right now within the Indian ecosystem. The other part of it is, of course, the grassroots piece, right? Which is which is not the more glamorous side of sport, but as a nation, that's something that the government is also trying to push forward, right? Whether Khelo India or Fit India, our objective as sports professionals is to get people to participate in sport. Sport has always been looked at as an extra period, or PT period, or physical activity, where some kids, there's one guy who's not a coach, but he's like just given that position, and the kids are just playing around. They look at it as a free period. We want to change that. We want to look at making India a little more, looking at India becoming a sporting nation now, and that will happen from all sides. So you have the Indian sports, Indian leagues, you have the grassroots piece, and then the third piece I'll talk about is the international exposure, right? I spoke about the Premier League, affiliating with us. You have other football leagues like the La Liga coming into India and setting up an office here. Our company is working with the Major League Baseball as well. MLB is working with the First Pitch program, which is really, really, really inspiring to see that how they are trying to build baseball from grassroots and try and get participation from there. And it's a really long-term project. So all of this makes India a very unique situation and unique space for youngsters to sort of work and get into. Cricket is there, of course, it's always been there because of multiple factors of India winning the World Cup, television rights, Sachin Tendulkar through the 90s. There were a lot of driving factors where cricket was a family sport. India Pakistan those days, Sunday afternoon 1 day match, 8 hours game used to be played. People used to sit in front of the TV and watch those sports. It was a cultural thing, and that's why cricket has become where it is. But if you look at the FIFA World Cup numbers every time it's played. The numbers India provides is staggering. I don't have it offhand.
Mm,
If you look at the way Pro Kabaddi has grown in the past, 5-7 years,
mm,
it's a superb case study. A lot of our our partners from UMass also start look at Pro Kabaddi League as a case study as to how how organizations have taken an indigenous sport and tried to commercialize and make it a structured league in that sense. Uh, in general, and then you have of course the Olympic sports, right? You have
yeah,
so many organizations pushing for sport. We unfortunately don't perform the best at the Olympics, but the the wish and the vision and the dream always is to look at how India can get those goals, get more goals, whether it's in team sports or individual sports. So for now, I think it's a brilliant space for anyone new or anyone who dreams of working in the sports industry to get into.
yeah. It's really interesting to know that even being into education sector of sports, the vision is completely aligned to grow sports in India. So that's
Yeah,
really interesting. Uh, there are I believe each sports have different identity, way of working, and each sports have their own way of culture, religion, everything. So how do you focus on teaching different sports behavior at your institute?
right. So, one thing that we look at, and one thing that we always start off discussing with a lot of our cohorts is that you look at, so sports management in essence is sport agnostic, right?
Yeah,
Sports management is the teaching the basics of management, and you need to know the business of sport. Now, the business of sport in different parts of the industry would essentially be the same, unless it's cricket is here, and then football and TT and all of them are somewhere around jumping above each other. But what we believe in is that if you are very structured in understanding event operations or marketing, or even athlete management, or strategy, or finance and accounting, if you know the basics of that, whether you're doing accounting for Mumbai Indians or Mumbai City FC or U Mumbai, in the end of the day, you will still be managing similar books, right? It's just that your
yeah,
product is different. So for us, what we look at introducing the basics of sports management and promoting the business of sport through that course. The sport can be anything. See, in the end of the day, of course, if you follow football or if you follow cricket, your dream would be to work in cricket. Unfortunately, a lot of times, because of the demand and supply in the market, you may not get the opportunity to work with cricket, but you will probably get an opportunity to work with football or with TT, for example. So you can always start your career with that, and the skills that you learn at a particular organization can always be transferred to another organization, because this is the back end and the business of sport. So that's exactly what we teach in our program. While we look at the business of sport, we also teach stuff. We talk to students, and we have a module on the Olympics movement. We talk about how the Olympic bid happens. We talk about the various, how different cities bid for the Olympics, whether it makes sense or not. Even we talk about league structuring. Since the IPL was launched, right now there are, I think, 5 or 6 leagues that are in progress, but not many know that there are many more than double of that actually started and actually failed. Right, a lot of them could not create a sustainable business model to continue year on year. So these are the kind of points that we like to touch upon in the program. And yeah, I mean, it's in the end of the day, it is about managing how you can understand the business of sport to the best of your ability.
Oh, wow, that's a really important factor which you focused on, because going in, there are many people who think that just knowing one thing, how will we understand how different other
Yeah,
sports work, right? And people get confused on whether they should go for it or they should work for some other opportunity, wait for some other opportunity. Uh,
yeah,
so as you know that there are other sports, as you said, Olympic sports and many other sports are they lesser viewed than
mm.
as cricket. So do you approach faculties of only mainstream sports, or there are do you have different faculties of lesser known expertising in different other sports?
Yeah. So no, actually, like it's a good segue from my earlier point where I spoke about sport being agnostic, right? While that is in the middle of our context, for us, it's important that we get in people from the industry who represent the curriculum or the course or the module a little better. So it doesn't matter which part of the industry they're from. So it starts from our parent company, right? While we work with a lot of the top international leagues and working on strategies and their India entry plans. We also work with a lot of sports we spoke about, like Prakash Padukone
Yeah,
badminton or Roland
yeah,
Garros tennis, or even Major League Baseball that I spoke about. So
yeah,
it stems down from our parent company who works with a lot of non lesser known sport or sport that are not as big as say cricket or football or kabaddi right now, and that's how it starts from it, right? And another very key point to share is that one of our key faculty and an advisor and someone who really has been backing the program is Joy Bhattacharya. If you look at his background, right, he started off in media, and then he was with Kolkata Knight Riders, and then after that he worked with the FIFA Under 17 World Cup, and then he's now with Pro Volleyball League. So he's made that jump into multiple sports where he's been at the center, the driving force behind these various leagues, teams, and operations for these various companies as well. So for us, we don't look at expertise within a sport, but we also have a lot of representatives from different parts of the industry, right? So we have the CEO of the upcoming Kho League, Mr. Tenzing, who will be teaching the business of leagues, who teaches the business of leagues as well. We have representatives from JSW Sports who are, through their
yeah,
Olympics movement at the Inspire Institute of Sport, they are really backing a lot of the Olympic athletes and have created a really world class facility at on the outskirts of Bangalore as well, and other organizations like Lux Sports, who again are part of the Olympics movement. And while this is a little bit more from the private side, the business conglomerate side, we also have someone from the government of Odisha who works on the sports projects. If you look at how Odisha is embracing sport, Bhubaneswar is touted to be sports capital of India right now, and we have someone who is sort of in the center of that, where he's driving a lot of, whether it's infrastructure, whether it's bidding for events, etc. Someone from that team who spends a lot of time with our students as a faculty, as a mentor, also as an advisor for the program, where it's important to also understand what is the government's take on various functioning for lesser known sports in India. So as if you look at the way we sort of have structured this program and our faculty, it looks at first if this is a particular subject, who is best suited to teach that subject. Now, whether that person has worked in football or whether has worked in volleyball, etc., that doesn't matter, because in the end of the day, you have to be very, you have to be good at your work. So that makes
yeah.
sense.
Yeah, from what I hear is different even if you have mainstream faculty or different faculties with the multiple Olympic sports and there are various way of your student understanding different aspects of sports. So that's
Yeah.
really interesting. So I've seen multiple people creating awareness of lesser known sports in India by having their digital platforms to create awareness
Hmm.
of these sports, uh, which are lesser known and lesser aware of. How do you think digitally these sports can be grown, or is there any way these sports can be grown by any other aspects?
Yeah. So interesting one. So in the end of the day, the sports industry is driven by media and broadcast revenue, right? In the end, that's where the monies are. There's a reason why we talk about the IPL broadcast revenue being so high, or we've not we've got Dream 11 bidding so much for the title sponsorship. In the end of it, everyone wants the eyeballs towards their sport. So I'm starting with that to give you a context. So when you speak about digital media, I feel digital media now, the lines have become very thin, with digital media being social only and being OTT as well. OTT
Yeah,
also has become a form of digital media right now, right? So,
yeah,
and a lot of people don't necessarily consume cable television only. While it is, yeah, in tier two and tier three cities, it is prevalent. A lot of people have changed their consumption habits to be digital in the sense OTT, right? And if you look at the way the whole pandemic has the kind of structure that the pandemic has created. A lot of consumption patterns have increased, whether it's watching Netflix or Prime or whatever it is, because we've all been at home. There's not been much happening on TV. Everyone is constantly on OTT. So digital media is going to be is a major driving force for lesser known sports in the country. But it is again in a chicken egg story, right? If tomorrow, if you put a sport that is not very followed very largely, again you might not have the right kind of advertisers watching that sport, or you may not have that many people following that sport. So someone has to sort of make that investment or take that hit. I'll give you an example of Pro Kabaddi League, right, where Star Sports said that okay, we'll take the ownership and then we'll broadcast it on our channel, and that purely was the winning hit, where once PKL was broadcasted on the Star networks, that's where people started
Yeah.
catching the games, and it's fast, it's action, and it's so encouraging to see. So that's an exact case study of how a lesser known sport like kabaddi used media and then. Okay, so I said that. So I was saying that I don't necessarily feel that everyone should follow the PKL route, because that may not be feasible for a lot of people, or may be feasible. I mean, that's completely depending on what the strategy is for the leagues. But I feel that broadcast can drive it. See, one of the most important parts of sport uh, is the unpredictability, right? In
Yeah.
anything you watch, you know that there is an end, and there is there is a storyline, there's content. But when you are watching live sport, you don't know what's going to happen in the end of the day. You don't know the result. You don't know what's the next over or the next half or whatever the next piece of action that's going to happen in the next half an hour. So that is the most important part of sport, which if broadcasters and media and digital platforms can use to their advantage, it can really grow. For us as consumers of sport, we should definitely look at how we can look at we should definitely look at how we can start to follow a little more of non-popular sports, follow a little more, understand a little bit more about how how pickleball is, or how ring football is, or look at what these sports are. It's a very unique sport. It's very different industry, different federations, different governing styles, and that's how it will open from our side. That is from the consumer side. Then from the media side, you need broadcasters, you need conglomerates like big companies to take that hit, saying that maybe
Yeah.
to start off I will not make that many advertising bucks, but in the end it's a 10-year plan, saying that in the first 5 years I will put in put in my time, put in some effort, try to show this sport a little bit more, and then see how it grows from there. But yeah, it's a very interesting topic, and I think we're another 10 days, 8 days from IPL starting, and
Yeah.
this country is going to go berserk again. We've been at
Again.
home 8 months, and with the start of I'm 100% sure that Star will have some really interesting programming assets up their sleeve through Hotstar, which they are predicting the numbers to hit the roof, especially with the way content is looked at. So yeah, for me, digital is the overall landscape. Social media is a small part, but I think sport is primarily driven by media and broadcast. So we are one part, and of course the media companies are the other part. So just my thoughts again, sharing. I don't know, but yeah, it's what I think.
So as you said, digital and everything. So do you feel we need more PR campaigns for women's sports? And what do you think of women's sports in India? And one more, if I can add, how GISB contributes in growing women's sports in India?
Yeah, so yeah, I mean it's all linked, right? If you look at
Yeah.
the World Cup final that took place in MCG earlier this year, right? Almost 100,000 people were there to watch India Australia play that final, and that
Yeah.
was a landmark moment for women's sport. In general, Australia. I mean, if you look at cricket, Australia has been running the women's Big Bash League for a few years now, and we had representatives from Cricket Australia the other day, and she clearly spoke about how there is a rising trend of consumption for women's sport overall. You also have, there were talks about there was an exhibition game for Indian for women's IPL also being played last year as well,
Yeah.
and
This
there's a lot
year.
of talk
Yeah.
about women's IPL also starting. And so, from the cricket side, I think as you have more stories of women's sport doing well, the more the audience starts to pick up these articles and pick up these campaigns. We recently, last week, we read about Brazil and England women footballers being paid equal as their men
Yeah,
counterparts.
yeah,
USA has been fighting that fight where the equal pay has to come into place as well. I think India, in general, India is ready for women participation in sport. Pro Kabaddi, if you look at the numbers, I think, don't quote me on this, but I think there's almost 40% of their audience is women watching Kabaddi games. And in general,
yeah,
the as more sporting leagues and more sporting opportunities come up, there'll be more women joining into that. One key part of women in sport that I want to talk about is icons, right?
yeah,
How icons play such a big hand in the rise of women in sport. It happened as early as Sania Mirza around 10 years ago. Then you saw PV Sindhu until a few years ago. Nowadays, you have Smriti Mandhana and a few of the girls from the Indian women's cricket team as well making the headlines. And if you look at if you look at the stories, right, it's not been an easy story for all of them. And because of that, you have a lot of you resonate a lot with those stories. Despite the hardships, despite whatever was there around them. I'm not saying all of them face hardships, but I'm just saying,
yeah,
despite whatever a lot of women sporting icons face, they reach where they are. So imagine if you were to empower them from a young age and encourage them to pick up sport and work in sport from an early age on. When they are at their peak, it'll be a completely different level. Even
yeah,
Indian women's football, right? We are looking at another 4 months. We are hosting the FIFA Under 17 Women's
yeah,
World
I
Cup here in
understand.
India. Such a beautiful story, right? If our women's team does well against in a world stage, if I'm sure they will do well, and once they do,
Yeah,
the stories that will come out of that, those that 11 or those 16 women that are performing so well at that stage, that will get many more million of women to join football and get into sports as well.
yeah,
So yeah, PR campaigns for women's sport definitely make for great stories just because of the hardships that they face to join over there. But as audience, we play an equal part to encourage and to ensure that the women get an equal rise. Your second question was with regards to GISB, right?
yeah,
So yeah, so with GISB, we encourage women in sport. Like it's a very straight mandate from our board as well, right? Right up. We want more women to join the program. We feel women can take leadership positions within the sports industry. It shouldn't be a men's only industry.
yeah,
What we do is our advisory board has given us a mandate that all women who study at GISB will be given scholarships. So we provide scholarships to all women who join GISB, and this is up to 50% as well. And we really encourage women to join our program at GISB. Apart from that, last year we had a year before last we had someone from Oscar Foundation, Poonam, who we sort of scholarshiped. As sport for development piece where we got her on board to go through the program. We work closely with Oscar Foundation, and then we ran a fundraising campaign as well for her to join the program. And just the fact that she was able to rub shoulders with a lot of our faculty and our students over there, and it was a platform for her to sort of come in and learn the basics of sports management. And not only that, we also had some people support her for her to travel to London for the study trip. So she actually was a part of the study trip at the Premier League offices as well. So that's something that is really close to our heart. And finally, I'll just touch upon our small project that we work with the Creators Premier League, which is the GISB Blue Flames women's team. One of our close industry friends has started the Creators Premier League, and it has a girls' league as well as part of the tournament. And we've actually purchased a GISB Blue Flames women team. So the idea is, one is of course empowering the amateur women who are playing football over there, through putting a team over there, ensuring that the league gets recognition, ensuring that a lot of the players over there, have a platform to sort of show their skills and sort of play over there. And more from our side, it's for the institute, it is a platform for a lot of our students to, whatever they learn in the classroom, to sort of go out there and execute it, whether it's player management, fan engagement. You are a part of it. You are a
Yeah,
very important part of the GISB Blue Flames women's piece as well. So that's something that is very close to our heart. And of course, now with the pandemic this year, it doesn't look like it'll happen. But whenever it happens next, 100% will be there again. All our students will be there cheering. It's very funny. You were there, but I just shared with whoever's online. We
yeah,
had what 15, 20 of our students every match cheering, whether it's rain, whether it's heat, cheering our students, cheering the team, the GIB Blue Flames team with flags, and just fan development starts at your locality, right? It doesn't have to be
yeah.
you going to a city in a stadium. It can start with your local team and empowering a lot of local women athletes, and that's how all of us will be able to create a platform for more women sports people to grow. You see, when parents see that, and when the next generation sees that, they also feel encouraged to send in their daughters, or send in have their daughters join these sports platforms to go out there and do their best. So yeah, that's just a few things.
I'll just share what I experienced with GISB
Yeah, please.
with Blue Films. It was really interesting, like with the league, watching so many of us cheering our team. There were so many parents who were willing to put their children's into sports management, and they were looking at the growth of our institute and how we were able to do difference in the league. So
Yeah,
that was my experience with the Blue Flames. It was
yeah,
really
and you did a good job.
interesting.
We were a
Yeah,
mid-table team, but we did a great job.
yeah, we did a great job. So GISB focuses a lot on personal development of a student. So how do you
Yeah,
think why it is so much important for a student before stepping into industry?
yeah. So that's something that is very close to our program director and our all of us as well. Before being a good sports professional, we believe that you should be a good human being in essence, right? You should have strong communication skills. Your mindset should be strong. You should know why. What is your purpose? What is your why of why you're getting into sport? So we conduct these courses as part of the foundation course in the program. These are courses which include communication skills, design thinking, neuro-linguistic programming, on organizational behavior and culture, and even something as basic as MS Office. Right. What we
Yeah,
feel is that a lot of young Indians often don't, when they are in a meeting or when they are meeting someone senior from the industry, they don't always are confident about putting out their ideas in the best possible manner. So that is something that we've noticed. I'm not generalizing. I'm just saying a lot of students face that. So we feel that if we can teach a lot of our students the basics of how do you conduct yourself at a meeting, how your hand movement should be, what kind of eye contact you should make, how do you present over there, what is an elevator pitch. A lot of times senior management at organizations don't necessarily have a lot of time to give to you, right? So how do you compress your 10-minute proposal to a 2-minute chat, when you're walking? So these are the kind of things that we teach. Even something very unique is neuro-linguistic programming, which is something we feel that participants in the sports industry really need, especially because sports is a sunrise sector. It's not as structured as any other industry, in IT or corporate or whatever it is. You will face failures, you will face difficulties, you will face challenges constantly throughout your journey. Now, the the key is that you pick up, dust your pants, and then you move forward, or come back harder, saying that okay, I
yeah,
failed. Okay, it's no problem. I can get back on this better. I can do much better and come back from this stronger. So that requires a lot of a certain kind of winning mindset, and it's something that Muhammad Ali or Zlatan, all these guys talk about winning mindset, right? So winning
yeah,
mindset comes, it comes with time. You got to sort of build it. You got to start to hone it and nurture it. So we try to teach that to our students, and we try to inculcate that, saying that you have to overcome whatever hurdles are thrown at you. You have to work hard. A lot of times, you will know when you're doing events,
yeah,
that 12 hours, 14 hours, 16 hours you've been at on ground, you've been working over there and not eating anything, and you just think to yourself, is this worth it? But in the end of the
Yeah.
day, if you have a strong mind and you really know your purpose, then in the end of the day, this is just a task that you got to sort of you just got to sort of go move forward with. And in the end of it all, you can just look at how we, as individuals, can contribute to other people's lives. So once you believe in contributing to other people's life, a lot of times you have a purpose, right? So every time you think about why did I get into sport, you say, okay, I tried to become a sports person, maybe I didn't, or I enjoy being sport. But if you just switch that a little bit and say, okay, what makes me really happy, and how can I contribute to other people, or how can I contribute to the development of kids, or how can I make younger kids enter the sports industry better, that mindset will really position you as a leader, make you smarter, and it'll really help you in how you can sort of create a successful pathway. Yeah, and apart from that, so that is what we teach. And apart from that, we, like I shared earlier when we started, we spend a lot of time in individual mentorships. So once you are a part of any student is a part of our family, you are a part of our family. So what you can do is what we do is we spend a lot of individual time with each and every student, asking them how we can support, how we can help you, where it is that you want to work at, what kind of connections can we help you with, what kind of connections you need to also make, how do you go about, it's a lot of people write messages on LinkedIn, a lot of people just send
Yeah.
ghost emails to HRs, but a lot of times it is not successful that way. So there is a certain tactic and certain way in which you got to move forward with this. So we work with you individually a lot, so that in that process we hope and we've seen that you will learn a lot through that process.
I would like to say that my personal experience with the personal building and personal branding, here I am talking to you with so much confidence, was because of GISB. Because you must be knowing that first day at my first presentation, I was so nervous and so much with fear to look at people and talk in front of them. So it really helped me a lot with foundation course. And I feel that each and every institute in India should have such kind of course for students to build themselves, because it's really important before stepping into industry. Um, so
Thanks. Nice. Good to hear. We are very, very proud of seeing all your work. Yeah.
yeah. There are many students who go abroad to study, work in industry abroad. So how is GISB giving opportunities for such students to gain knowledge at that level and get into Indian industry and grow it?
Yeah. See, now of course with COVID, it looks difficult for anyone to travel. But in general, we've seen there is a gap, right? One is that you do study sports management in any of the countries, Europe, Australia, or the US. After you complete your program, we've seen 9 out of 10 students have to come back because of the sponsorship laws, right? Sponsorship issues.
Yeah.
A lot of sports companies, very few will actually sponsor and pay for your visa, especially at the entrance level jobs. So what happens then? You have a lot of Indian students who spent an X amount of money and then come back into India, and then when you compare the salaries, the return on investment is very far, right? The gap is very wide. Secondly, what we've seen is that in any of these countries, the ecosystem of sport is very far ahead. India, like I shared earlier, is fairly nascent. As old as 2008, I can share. Uh, IPL, since the IPL has happened, the business of sport has grown, right? So it's still in an infancy stage right now. So a lot of work that happens in India is still fairly new. So if you come from a very structured background, it becomes a little challenging for you to adjust very quickly. I'm not saying that people haven't, but in general, it becomes a little challenging. And I've seen people who studied sports management leave sports when they've come back to India as well, and it becomes a little difficult for them to take it forward. What we've created, or what we are providing, is we are looking at how we can provide an international standard education in India without you having to leave India. So our partnership with University of Massachusetts is a clear example of that, right? We have professors from the US actually teaching 3 modules, over 100 hours of sports content to our students, which includes leadership in sport, sports strategy, and sports marketing and consumer behavior. We also have access to all of Mark McCormick's case studies. UMass in general is the number one sports management institute in the world. They're in the next year or next few years, they're going to be touching 50 years of sports management experience. So when you look at the kind of expertise they have, it's unparalleled. So we bring that expertise to India through GISB as well. Now, apart from that, we also look at how a lot of international faculty is built into our programs. Prior to this pandemic as well, and you will know, a lot of our sessions were online already on Zoom. So, every month you almost had, 2 or 3 sessions conducted by international faculty over the online platform. So that gives you a context of how what kind of work is happening internationally. Third thing is that the study trip experience, right? That is something which no one else can provide. We were in the UK and we met with a lot of students from other courses in sports management, and the kind of experiences that our students were privy to at that point was not possible to even them over there. So what the access that our students get with the Premier League study trip is it's something else completely. So we are, these kind of things really add to the student learning experience, where you don't actually have to go out and spend so much. And of course, because ours is an industry design program, I keep coming to industry design program because that people should understand what is the importance of an industry design program. It is really practical in that sense, and it's really important that students get the relevance of it, especially at a postgraduate level. This is a program that you will do because you want to do. This is not a program that your parents will ask you to do. Very few students will say that my parents have sent me or so I've come. This is something that you actually have fought with your parents to come and do. So 9 out of 10 students fight with their parents because sports management, sports industry is still fairly new for people to understand, right? So yeah, that's the kind of background that we provide.
Any advice for future sports enthusiasts who wants to change their passion into career?
Yeah, so I'm not very senior, or I'm not very qualified to talk about the whole agenda of and the big picture of sport. But what I feel is just about joining the dots, right? Sport is a sunrise sector in India. It is very similar to what the ITs would have been in the 90s or the 80s, right? Where everyone knew what is going to happen, but no one really knew what is going to happen. They knew that this is coming up. If you look at the investments made in sport from conglomerates, whether it's Reliance or JSW Sport or even Tata that's been doing it, and now you're talking about the Adanis of the world also getting into sport, it clearly gives you an indication that people are looking at sport as the next big thing. Yes, it will take some time. It will take 5 years, 8 years maybe, but that's the beauty of it, right? You will be a pioneer if you get into it early. Sport is still fairly nascent. I keep coming back to that. It's still a baby stage. We cannot compare ourselves to the Premier League or NFL or any other international sport that has been doing well for years, because we are still young. We are still figuring it out. But the beauty of it is anyone who joins this industry has an opportunity to create a very unique pathway, create their own identity within the sports ecosystem. With regards to now, with regards to COVID, I think with the current situation, with the economy, with the pandemic, with the job situation, it becomes all the more better time for you to take a step back, upskill, and then enter into the industry in 2021. Again, it's about joining the dots, right? You have the FIFA Under 17 Women's World Cup, you have Olympics, you have the Euros, you have the ICC World T20, IPL is going to happen again, and many, many more tournaments that didn't happen this year are all going to happen in 2021. Now, imagine with those tournaments the kind of demand for sports professionals in the industry. So it's straight about joining the dots, right? So for me, it's smart. It's a smart time for anyone who's interested to get into sport to use this pandemic to the advantage, not saying that okay, I lost my job or I've just been at home doing nothing. Maybe use the time to say that okay, I switched my career and I used the pandemic to get into the sports industry, or you know what, I thought that there were no jobs available in the market, so I took another year off, and 2021 is the year where I will come back, smarter and stronger. So I think it's a beautiful industry to work in. I love my job. I wake up every day and it's funny how much time I spend on my work, but it's only because I enjoy what I'm doing, and it just makes me really happy to wake up every day and get emails or get into calls or have conversations like this with like-minded people who are so passionate about sport. I don't think any other industry people are so passionate when it comes to sport. Just my final thoughts. Yeah.
Yeah. Thank you so much for joining. It's really a pleasure to have a conversation with you. And I'm sure this conversation will surely have many more candidates who are really enthusiastic for getting into sports. So,
Yeah.
yeah,
Thank you so much. It was great chatting with you, Sumit.